And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It is Lakers Fast Break University. We truly appreciate you watching and listening, as always, and attending class right here at Lakers History 101. Welcome back to the awesome place to be for all of your learning and all of the experience that you've had over the course of the last school session, over the course of the past few months. It is Lakers Fast Break University, is the dean of all university studies, Gerald Glassford. Truly appreciate you watching and listening. Like I said, please go ahead and check us out. And of course, please, all students are required, or at least we'd like to tell you that, but we are required to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the little Professor Joe Soro right there on the right-hand side of your YouTube screen, or go ahead and like on Facebook. Do anything you can to go ahead and help us out at the Lakers Fast Break. And in return, you'll get a passing grade from us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I truly appreciate all of our students forming into class right now, grabbing their desks, grabbing their seats. Intel Wise says a burden for you in the right spot, of course. Okay, Intel. I don't know if that's descriptive or too descriptive or descriptive enough, but you know what? We're going to go ahead and give you an A for creativity on that one. But it is Lakers Fast Break University, Lakers History 101. I'm here along with my outstanding professor, one of our tenured professors indeed. You've got to go ahead and check him out today. It's Ox 1947 at LakersBall.com. And of course, the company that he owns on the side of outside of his teachings, of course, it is Simblades, Simblades with a Y.com. It is Joe Soro. And Joe, Professor, great to have you here, my friend. It's been an outstanding school year, but it's coming down to final exams. And what a better way to go ahead and associate the final exams other than just going ahead and being able to give out a final exam on what other than none other than the NBA Finals itself. So I ask you, my friend, as we go ahead into this conversation, because I know in our preceding days we'll be talking about all the rumors, all the innuendo, all the stuff that's going on, the latest NBA news. But for now, with the NBA Finals recently ending, we know that the Lakers have been fortunate to be on that end where Denver is now 16 more times than they have. So with the 17 total championships, I wanted to go ahead as far as your last symposium of the school year to talk about exactly the finals runs, which really connect with you most, sir.
For the Lakers, the ones that resonate, obviously, are the ones that were of this century, because that's my memory. That's me being an adult, coherent enough to understand the games and the series and the culture of LA basketball, LA Laker basketball. I don't think it's too out of place to say that the 2010 finals was probably the most important win, being that it was against our arch rival, the Boston Celtics.
Well, would you say that's more important than the first title victory over the Boston Celtics?
Yes.
How so?
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say the 2000. No, nothing will be bigger than the first one in terms of the Celtics. And the way they ended that series in 1985 was even more of a stamp in eliminating the hearse.
And the 2010 was over Orlando.
2010 was Celtics. 09 was Orlando.
Oh yeah, okay, I got them reversed. Yes, you're right. You absolutely. I forgot I was there at E3. E3 right during that time.
You have now scored an F, Gerald.
Oh, absolutely not correct.
If it could go, as a matter of fact, since your name is Gerald, it'll be worse.
Wait. What is that? I am the dean of this university, my friend. I was there when
you have created a new letter.
It was at the ESPN.
You have created a new letter in your grade system. It's G, as in worse than an F.
No, nothing is worse than a G. No, I'm sorry. But I will tell you, my friend, it is the Lakers Fast Break. I wanted to ask you this, though. Why does 2010 connect with you so much?
I felt that was going to be the end of the run. And not too many people understood what that meant, even myself at the time. But I remember there was a sense of relief when they won that series. It was a series that was very similar to 1998 Bulls, 1988 Lakers. It was a spent title. You could see everyone was tired. The Lakers in 1988 won 3 series in a row. They swept the first round 3-0, and then they went 7 games in the semifinals, 7 games in the Western Conference Finals, and then 7 games against Detroit in on their way to winning that back-to-back title, which was the first time a team had went back-to-back in 20 years. I was sort of there on those, but not. I don't really consider myself invested at that time. I was 10 years old. I just had gotten into baseball. That was kind of my sport at the time. But when you look at the games, I have watched the games. I do have the games available, the actual games, not the highlights. And you could see they were spent. 2010, it was very, very similar to that, in that they had gone 3 straight years to the finals, and the West was not the East. The Lakers getting to the finals in the West, when you were playing 8 seeds that had won 50 games, the competition was immense. And Kobe, I believe he still holds the record for most playoff series wins against 50-win teams.
But in that series, though, there with 2010, you had the Lakers. You're right. Boston only was in 2 of those finals, as opposed to the Lakers, who were all 3 of those finals with 1 loss and 2 victories.
Yeah, we lost.
You could see in that Game 7, it was a matter of attrition.
And it wasn't just the Lakers. The Celtics. Kevin Garnett had been interviewed about it years ago, and he said they couldn't move.
That was an ugly game.
It was an
ugly
ugly game.
If you're talking about basketball, watching it, it's just somebody random that's not Lakers or Celtics preferential treatment as far as what they do as far as their fandom is concerned. You could just see it was just not a pretty game to watch.
And it was probably Kobe's worst offensive output. Well, there was a game in Detroit that was bad where he scored 6 points. So that was probably his worst. The good thing is he did make up for.
He rebounded quite well.
He rebounded quite well. He still had the game high in terms of points. He still had more points than anyone in the game, which was 23. But Kobe willed himself and willed his team, as well as Pau Gasol, as well as Ron Artest. They all won the game. Fish hitting that 3 to tie the game late in the 4th. This is a team sport. This is how it works. And everybody played their part, and the Lakers were able to make it through and put a stamp on the 2000s as to me, Kobe is the player of the 2000s. Shaq has some room there, but I think Shaq kind of got caught into 2 different decades. He was dominant he was dominant since he came into the league. But let's just say the last half of the 90s and the first half of the 2000s, you could say that Shaq kind of had that.
He started to go off a steep cliff after
he started to go in 07. Yeah. He started to go to 07. And the NBA implementing the zone in 2002, or at the end of the 2002 season, eliminated his prime probably a year or 2 earlier. I believe more so than his decision to have toe surgery late. I believe the zone being implemented that offseason actually probably cost the Lakers the title, 4P, which only adds to the disdain I have for David Stern until this day. It's not just the Knicks veto trade. David Stern has been, he's done so many things to hold back the Lakers, where for 14 years, he did everything he could to enhance Michael Jordan's run, which always puzzled me. Now, could it have been Shaq was too dominant? was he the Wilt Chamberlain of our time, where they had to extend the paint, blah blah blah, to make things fair? That's a debate for another time. And I don't know if Colorado had anything to do with the fact that Kobe never really ever got to getting supported by the league, at least for that middle part of the 2000s. But anyways, the three title runs that I mentioned, 88, 98, and 2010, those three finals series, one happened to be the Bulls, obviously, they were spent. They were spent. You could see it. And I knew in 2010 that was likely going to be the last run, the last title. But I didn't know at the time. It was more of a relief feeling, which made me, looking back on it, it felt like when they lost to Dallas, I was like, yeah, man, I kind of sort of felt this the year before, that they were spent. Look at how Pau Gasol played in that series. And then they ended up playing even worse in 2012 with Mike Brown having actually a pretty darn good game plan. And we had some really good coaches. Steve Clifford was on that team as an assistant. Snyder was on that team. I mean, they were pretty good. But at some point you start hitting the wall, and Kobe started hitting the wall then. He did make a little bit of a comeback in 2013, I should say. But we all know how that ended.
Yes.
And that's kind of how that played out.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. Welcome to Lakers Fast Break University for final exams on the NBA Finals. It's Gerald Glassford, Dean of all University Studies, along with our tenured professor, Professor Joe Soro of LakersBall.com, and of course, everything that he does at Symblades with a Y.com. Don't forget our fellow trustee members, Laker Tom, the #1 Lakers blogger that's out there, and of course, Jamie Sweet. They are available at Lakerholics.com. Our good friend Stone Hansen, go ahead and check him out. He is hard at work on his symposium on the NBA draft. Go ahead and check him out today at the Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast. Also, as well, our good friend John McCallion on YouTube. So please go ahead and support all these great causes. Plus, follow us on social media. And of course, if you have not yet liked and subscribed, please go ahead and do so to get the latest notifications of when we go live on the air. Tomorrow and Friday, we may be going on the air with more news, more information. There's always scuttlebutt and rumors on today's players, such as Bradley Beal, Zion Williamson, the NBA draft, so much more. So go ahead and check it out by subscribing today, wherever you get your podcast. But my friend, it is Lakers Fast Break University. So that really stands out to you there. What about the notion that Celtics will live and die off this is? And I know your answer already as soon as I'm saying it, but Kendrick Perkins, who we see as a blowhard these days, just got blah, 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 blah. But he was a role player for the Celtics at the time. He did break his leg, I think is what he did.
Tore his knee up.
Yeah, tore his knee up. I'm sorry, the ACL. That's right. Because all I know is that whole leg was bandaged up when I saw him at the ESPN Zone the next day, right there when I was going to E3 at that time. I will say though that he did provide some rebounding and some stiff defense interior wise, but other than that, he didn't give you much else. But what do you say about the notion that a knee injury by Kendrick Perkins was the key to the Celtics not getting that title, and the Lakers did. So I'm saying I just don't think that's even the case.
I'll do you one better. Give us Bynum healthy in 2008 and see what the results of that series would have been.
Agreed. There you go.
So if you're
even
going
to Bynum healthy in 2010,
I don't see the Lakers losing in 08 if there's a healthy Bynum. Healthy Bynum is a little bit of a paradox. I don't know if there's such a thing as a healthy Bynum.
Was that the knee injury after the one that Kobe rolled on him in Indiana?
Kobe rolled on his knee in 09. 08
Okay.
was Lamar Odom.
Okay, that was the first. Okay. Yes, you notice they're caused by our own players as opposed to
both in Memphis too.
Yeah.
I was watching both games.
Okay, so there you go. Absolutely. They're obviously
you wanted History Laker 101, you're getting it.
There you go.
And I didn't
So,
look anything up, so you know that I know my shiznit.
well, if that's the case, Professor, then if you've got that going on with Andrew Bynum, and obviously his knee
I'll tell you
injury.
this. Here, I'll tell you this. You guys want to play the injury game? Give me Magic Johnson and Byron Scott in '89. Give me Worthy and Byron Scott in '91. Give me Worthy in 1983. And give me a healthy Karl Malone, Horace Grant, Rick Fox, and not a one-legged Derek Fisher in '04. And let's play that game, and we'll see what the results would be. Part of the
Which do you think
game,
is the most crucial? Which do you think is the Lakers injury? I know they're all big. I know they're
the
all,
worst injury.
yeah. I think I'd say Worthy in '83. I remember
No,
that clearly.
no, no. The
To me,
worst
it's
one.
Worthy in
The worst
83.
one was Magic in '89.
I'd say Worthy in '83. I think
We
they
we
were.
we could have three-peated to finish that decade. It's it, we. I focus on the losses. Unfortunately, that's just how the brain operates. There was as great as the '80s were, as great as the 2000s were. The two losses in each decade. Uh, in those decades. The two that really obviously stand out are 89 and 84,
Mhm.
'04 and '08. And I'll start with the 84. One bad pass by Worthy cost us that championship. And it would be the way history changes for the Lakers and Celtics is immense off of one bad pass, and that pass should not happen. Those are gimmies. That's like dropping a sack fly, or I should say a fly ball, and you're going to end the World Series, right? That's how I looked at it. You're not losing that series. Winning in Boston in both first games, you're not losing that series after that. So the Lakers lost a finals against the Celtics, which would have given Magic 3-0, or actually 4-0 against Larry Bird if you count the NCAA championship. The Lakers are sitting at 18 titles. The Celtics are sitting at 16. The Lakers have 6 titles in the 80s, the most competitive era of basketball in my book. And that's just winning 84. You win 89 with a healthy Magic. Everyone was talking about how great the Pistons were. They were due. I beg to differ. If you give me a healthy Byron Scott and Magic Johnson, that series could go either way. If they win that one, they send Cap into retirement in a three-peat, and he has 7 championships. Magic has, 8 championships. Magic has 7 to end that decade. The Lakers three-peat. The Lakers are sitting with 19 titles versus 16. It's the greatest basketball decade, even more so than the Celtics, in my opinion, when they were winning 8 in a row and 11 of 13. So that's kind of how that could have played out. 2000. I think I've talked about this a few times. Kobe's seat next to Jordan would be cheek to cheek, and there would be no argument. I believe Michael had just a hair more in the ability department than Kobe. But part of this who's the greatest argument has to include accomplishments. And accomplishments in 2000, should the Lakers have won in '04 and in '08, giving Kobe 7-0 in the finals, giving Kobe 2 wins against the Celtics, giving Kobe 2 three-peats, giving Kobe 4 titles in 5 seasons, and probably at least 1 more finals MVP. That changes his career resume into an area where you cannot legitimately argue that he isn't the greatest of all time, at least the argument. You can't sit there and go, no, you're wrong. It's an opinion, but you can't really logically say that that's not one of the more accomplished decades for a player that you could ever see. 7 championships with 2 different dynasties, two three-peats, 1 run that won you 4 out of 5. You can't argue it. Beating the Celtics twice, passing, if the if you exclude the 80s redos of 84 and 89, the Lakers passed the Celtics in those wins in championships. You're not, you can't really argue against how valuable that is for your career stat. So yeah, I can talk this all day. The what ifs are fun to talk about when it comes to sports. What ifs don't work in the real world, because I think that kind of gets in the way of your job. But when we're talking sports, I think there is a little bit of nostalgia there. There's a little bit of excitement, and man, how different would it have been had it been like this? I think those conversations are fun. One of my favorites, and I've mentioned this in shows in the past, the NBA. I don't know why they haven't done more of these, but they had a what if about Kobe should he have been drafted by the New Jersey Nets. And it's funny that they came out with that a little bit after I had a discussion with a friend of mine about what if we were able to teleport Kobe into that Knicks team in the 90s instead of John Starks. How different would that decade have been for the Bulls, the Knicks, or the NBA in general? That'd be a fun conversation.
Once again, it's the Lakers Fast Break. It is Lakers Fast Break University. It's Gerald Glassford, Dean of all University Studies, along with tenured Professor Joe Soro of LakersBall.com, and of course, everything he does with SimBlades with a Y.com. Want to ask you, though, you said 2010 is your most remembered, you think the best overall championship title run out of any of the Lakers' 17 championships. I don't know if I say that is probably the quintessential championship run for the Lakers. There's just so many to choose from. I really think
11 to be exact, the last 34 years.
I mean, my gosh, the Lakers 2001
run. Maybe more than that, actually. I'm sorry, 44 years. Jeez, my math is bad.
I mean, the Lakers 2001 run with them going with only one loss, the greatest, considered by many to be the greatest playoff run in history in any sports league. I don't know, man. That's going to be a hard one to beat.
Very true, and I agree. I agree, and it's not just that playoff run; it's the entire year between, or I should say, almost 10 months of basketball. I've also talked about this in previous shows. The Lakers, from the end of March to December of that same year, granted it was 2 separate seasons, lost 2 games. 2 games in a possible 41 meaningful games. That includes the playoffs, right? They went 8-0 to finish off that regular season, 15-1 to finish off the playoffs, and then started the following season, which was a championship season, 16-1. I don't think you'll ever. I know the Bulls were great in 1998, and I'm not going to argue that the Bulls wouldn't win or lose, whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but I want you to just really see what I just said. They played 41 games. For the last 41, or the 41 meaningful games. That's half an NBA season, guys. Half an NBA season in terms of a regular season, right? They went 39-2. And they should have finished the 01 playoff run 15-0, except for some idiot ref that called an offensive foul on Robert Horry when the Lakers were up 5 points with the ball in overtime. I will never forget that play. Never forget that play, because that actually might have cost us the undefeated record, because AI came back on that next play, hit a 3, and then the momentum started going Philly's way. However, I do say this, considering what happened at the All-Star game that year, the buffoons in Philly booing their the guy they probably should have drafted, but no one wanted to take that chance, right? He was a high school kid. You don't want to do that, even though he was breaking Wilt Chamberlain records. They booed Kobe Bryant in the All-Star game, and they ended up watching every single Philadelphia finals game with a Lakers W. And then the last one was a clincher in Philly. So in a lot of ways, I enjoyed seeing 3 straight games in Philly and the Lakers sticking it to them in all 3 games, and the last one being the clincher. So they had to watch the Lakers celebrate on their own floor.
I will say though,
and the Lakers are 5-1 against Philly in the history of the NBA. They used to be the Syracuse Nationals, beat them twice in Syracuse, beat them 3 times in Philly, and then they got the little run in '83 when Worthy got hurt, and they ended up picking up Moses Malone in the offseason that year and winning a title. And the only reason why I'm not too upset is I do have a lot of respect for Dr. J, and I think he was due to win a championship, and to some degree, looking at it from an objective standpoint, I was happy he was able to get one, because he encompasses everything you want, and someone who was the trailblazer at the time of basketball, and he's always had class. He's always represented himself well. He's represented New York, New Jersey, Philly, anywhere he's been an amazing ambassador to the game.
I will say though, as Knee Deep actually is raising his hand from back in the corner right there at one of the desks right there, and we truly appreciate it, noting that 2003-2004 Kobe season had too much off the court distractions, and the basketball gods would not allow for a Lakers title there. We all know what happened on that one, obviously, with the matches, but also the Detroit came in and just really laid a defensive foundation against exactly everything was going on that really helped to divide that team, and obviously led to a lot of the issues that it did. But to Knee Deep, the 1988 title was the best, with 3 7-game series, including the versus the Pistons, also culminating in a back-to-back, which I have a shirt up hanging right up there right now from that era that I don't know if I'll ever give up, but it's looking at me right now. That is the one that I guess that Knee Deep is saying, and that's actually a very good candidate. The only thing though is 15-1. I still go back to 15-1, my friend, as far as 16-1, excuse me, 16-1. I still go back to that
because no, it's 15-1.
15-1. I'm sorry, yeah, 15-1, because of the fact that it is just so hard to do. We've seen teams. Let's use the NHL with the Golden Knights. Congratulations, they just won theirs. You had the team with the best record in the history of the league in the regular season do the El Foldo Act in the first round. You saw in the NBA, you saw Boston and obviously as well Milwaukee. 2 of these teams, both 50-plus win seasons, both get knocked out by Miami, and at times it wasn't even looking pretty. And it just seems to me that in the clutch and playoff performances, you just need that type of attitude that you can't get any other time during the year. And to see the Lakers step it up with a 15-1 performance in the playoffs, and like you said, with the way that first game went down, and it had to take a heroic performance by Allen Iverson, plus, like you said, some stuff, chicanery go on just before that. But that heroic performance by Iverson, a Hall of Fame worthy performance, in order for them just to get that one game. I just think for me, without a doubt, it's that 2001 playoff run that stands out amongst the best.
Beyond that last 3 months of basketball was the most enjoyable basketball I've ever watched. I was a little nervous in game 3. I think that was probably the only game I was actually nervous. And then I realized Kobe just passed to Robert Horry. Robert Horry hit a 3 to, because that's what Robert Horry did. And I remember he turned around and pointed at one of the chumps that were probably talking smack to him. Once Lakers won game 3, that was pretty much it.
It was all over.
Yeah,
was all over.
They went on to pretty much blow them out in 4 and 5. And
I remember that series. I remember as soon as you saw in that game 3 it start to go sour,
Yeah.
that was it.
And it
Everybody
was
was just like,
inevitable.
yeah.
At the time, you don't realize it. You do have to deal with Allen Iverson, and Allen Iverson might actually be underrated in terms of his ability to affect the game.
It took a Hall of Fame performance just to get that one win.
It really did, and it wasn't so much just the performance. We've seen a lot of guys score a lot of points and lose. He had something else there. He had a ability to scare people. When you scare people and you can score at will, there's your defense plays differently. Your mindset's different. It's not like they're saying, "Oh, well, just let Allen do his thing and then we'll take care of everybody else." No. As soon as Allen knew he was going to get double teamed or the lane was going to get closed off, he was always able to manage to get other guys involved, and they were effective. That's what the great ones do. They still are in some way helping the team win, not just with their individual skills. The most enjoyable run was in 2001. The most the most relaxed finals ever was 2002.
Yeah, it was just almost an afterthought. But
It was a beautiful series. I get laughed at a lot for this. I said, I want you guys to think about this for a second. We just endured a 7-game series that went into overtime. We were due a nice finals. Yes, the ratings stunk probably, the competition stunk, but I don't give a damn. When it's your team, you want a 4-0 sweep every time. And it was just a nice feeling to just watch basketball for a week and a half and know that we're just waiting for the three-peat to finish. Kind of felt like watching the Niners in the late 80s, early 90s, up until Dallas came.
yeah,
You just felt that the Niners were going to win.
I just felt bad for Todd McCullough. 2 straight times, you're with 2 different teams. You think you're doing well, and you think your team's going to the finals. Then you turn around and look at the other side of the court, and there's Shaq staring down at you.
Well, I seriously think that. I don't think Todd looks at it that way. I think Todd goes, "Hey, I played against Shaq in back-to-back seasons."
In the finals.
And I believe Shaq did say something complimentary about him and said, Todd's a serviceable big. And Todd was very appreciative in his interviews with Shaq saying he's a serviceable big. I feel bad for Todd. Todd was not in any fault of his, was bad place at the wrong time in those 2 years. Kind of reminds me of Gail Gilbert, backup quarterback for the Bills and the Chargers. For those of you who don't know who that is, he was on all four
4.
Buffalo Bills losses, and then
Scott Norwood.
Decided to go to San Diego in '94, where the Chargers met the Niners and lost the Super Bowl then. So Gail Gilbert was a 5-time Super Bowl appearance player and lost all 5.
One thing I do want to say though, and Knee Deep did discuss this, and he did prefer the 1988 team. I will give it that it is probably one of the most exciting NBA Finals series I think that the Lakers have played, that they ultimately won. I know we talked about 2010. It went to a game 7, but that game 7 was just so ugly to watch from a basketball standpoint. The 1988 series, close games almost pretty much throughout, and even went down to the final minutes and the final seconds of game 7 on that one. Your thoughts on the 87 and 88 back-to-back series on that one?
Well, 87 is arguably the best Laker team ever in terms of from beginning to end.
It was loaded.
I wouldn't disagree because that was Magic's first MVP season. Mm-hmm. Magic tore the heart out of Boston in Boston with the baby sky hook.
I remember.
Yeah, I would say the 87-88 run. Let's people want to celebrate. There's people out there that celebrate one title in their history. Here we can compare three separate times from 1988 to 2010. Which repeat team do you like? Do you like the 87-88 team? Do you like the 2000 to 2002 team? What about the 09-2010 team? Isn't that kind of cool? Heck, you can even do the three-peat is technically 2 repeats, right? So you can talk double on that one. And I actually went back and looked at the Lakers' repeat numbers. So Boston won, if you look at it from a technical standpoint, they repeated 7 times during that 8 straight title run, right? That's considered 7 repeats.
Mm-hmm.
Then they lost in 67, and then they won in 68 and 69. So they repeated 8 times. Am I right on that?
I think so.
No, they lost to St. Louis. I'm sorry. They lost to the St. Louis Hawks in the finals, in 58. So sorry about that. Let me get back to where they were before then.
I'm giving you the G grade now.
Sorry, that was my mistake. They won in 59. They won in 57, won in 59 against the Minneapolis Lakers. That was the last time Minneapolis went to the finals before they went to LA. So 57 Celtics, 58 they lost. 59, 60. Who was it in 60? 59, 60. I think that's when it started. 59 to 66. Yeah. So 7, 8, if you count 69. And that's it. They repeated 8 times in their title runs. The Lakers, they had a back-to-back in Minneapolis and a three-peat. So back-to-back, you have 1 and then 2 and 3 for the three-peat. So remember that, 3. Then they went back-to-back in 89, 87, 89, 88. That's 4. Then 5 and 6 in 01 and 02. And then 7 in 2010. So right now, if you look at the history of repeats, Celtics are at 8, Lakers are at 7. Repeats as champions. The Lakers and the Celtics have more repeat titles than probably the entire league put together. Except for the Warriors. Warriors have 8 titles? No, 7.
7, yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so the Lakers have 7 repeat titles. The next would be Golden State with 7 titles. So that's just an astronomical freaking stat. I know I kind of pulled that out of the air there, but I'm a stat historian dork sometimes with this stuff. It sticks in my head.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. Welcome to Lakers Fast Break University. It is final exam time, and no better way to go ahead and celebrate the final exams with a exam on the NBA Finals. Looking forward to going ahead and having our graduation before the end of this month for our first set of graduates from Lakers Fast Break University. But before we do, obviously it's finals exam time, and I wanted to go ahead in our last 20 minutes of class, wanted to go ahead and discuss a little bit more about some of the early days as far as the early championship runs for the Lakers that we often forget about, because there was an early dominance by the Minneapolis Lakers themselves in 49, 50, 52, 53, and 54. And we always talk about the back-to-back in 87, 88. We always talk about the run in 2001, 2001, and 2002 for that three-peat in 2000 to 2002. And obviously the 2009, 2010 back-to-backs as well. But we often forget how great the Minneapolis Lakers were back in 50, 52, 53, and 54 when they were on that run. And if they would have won in 51, because you've got a back-to-back there and a three-peat right after it, so that's 5 championships, my friend, in 6 years.
Yeah, they lost to the then Rochester Royals, which are now the Sacramento Kings. I unfortunately don't have enough memory or enough information to go back to that season and see what was going on. But more than any of that is, I believe the Lakers' worst finals loss might have been in '62, because you had Frank Selvey miss an open jumper in regulation with a shot at winning that game and beating the Celtics. And had Selvey made that shot, what would happen after that? And that's how close it is. That's how close sports is. It's that one little thing that didn't happen or does happen that can change the course of everyone's career, everyone's life, everyone's franchise. Going back to the what ifs about the Nets, remember about Kobe and that show on NBA TV? If the Nets draft Kobe Bryant, the New Jersey Nets are still the New Jersey Nets. That's how that changes. So looking back on the Minneapolis Lakers, which you can't always denigrate the past and what the rules were then and all that. I mean, you can't at the time you can't understand that. You can't fix it now. You have to give due. If you don't think a player like George Mikan affected and progressed the NBA, then you're a fool. George Mikan helped the league progress. It might not have been Magic Johnson, Larry Bird-esque, or Jordan and the Dream Team, but he is a part of it in a little way. He was the biggest star of the NBA in the 50s. And he owned that decade until Wilt and Bill Russell came in. Then they owned the 60s. And then Kareem owned the 70s. And then Magic and Bird owned the 80s. Michael the 90s. And then the 2000s, you can, if you want to talk about pure talent and accomplishment, Kobe Bryant. And then LeBron in 2010 with a honorable mention to Steph Curry, because that's just kind of how that played out. So the Celtics won all those titles with a league that only had 8 to 9 teams. But you'll never hear me say that those championships don't mean anything. I think it's short-sighted. It's selfish. It's saying that because it's not your team. Very similar to how a lot of people call the 2020 title a Mickey Mouse title. However, if it was your team who won it, you would be you'd be supporting the hat, the gear, the banner up in the rafters. I'm sure there's a less than 0.1% that anyone would actually say that about their own team.
My 2020 Lakers World Championship jacket looks really damn good.
Yeah, and I bet it does, and I wish I had one.
And I'm very proud to show it. Was very proud to showcase it all throughout the Pacific Northwest recently. So anybody who has an issue with it, they know where to go. But
Gary, that's a great question.
I still think they would be overblown by MJ in 1991.
My Byron Scott was injured that series as well. So
I'm talking about an older Lakers team running into a much younger Bulls team in several key areas.
The Lakers needed to win Game 3, and they got close. I think a healthy Byron Scott likely gets them over the hump in Game 3. The only question is, does Michael Jordan go into supersonic mode and win the next 3?
He could taste it, he could smell it, and we obviously see from the great player that he was, and
But Michael couldn't guard Magic. They had to stick Pippen on him, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I'd say Michael's probably still gets his,
I still
but
say he gets in.
but you never know. I mean, you're still talking about Worthy, who's in the league 8 years at that point. You don't say that he's washed up. Byron Scott got drafted in '83. He wasn't really washed up. If they're healthy in those games, what I don't know.
But they had already a lot of finals runs by that time.
Yeah, but like I said, they're relatively young players at the time. I think if you have a healthy Worthy, you have a healthy Byron Scott. I don't believe we lose all 3 games in LA.
They're both pushing 30 at that time, which is different than the 30 that you have now. 30 these days, players are able to last longer or be at a peak higher, I believe, due to
but they
training
don't.
and diet
They played 4 years
and load management. Your favorite.
in college, which means they didn't play 82 games in those 4 years, or let's say those 3 years if they're doing the one and done. So I don't know. That was the first heartbreak for me in all of sports. For me, that '91 was the first time I saw my teams lose. Right, but again, it was only the second finals season of one of my teams where I was able to pay attention and know what was going on, and it was nice to see the win in game one. Sam Perkins hitting the game-winning 3. Jordan came back in game 2 and had a hell of a game, and then game 3 was neck and neck. Went into OT and we lost. We win that game, it gets very interesting at that point. Maybe Chicago presses a little bit. Maybe not Jordan, but maybe the team does. But we'll never know. We'll never know.
Once again, it is Lakers Fast Break University for Lakers History 101. Thanks so much for joining us and watching and listening. Please go ahead and subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air. I know tomorrow, Joe and I want to discuss some of the latest news and rumors in which you guys are also in the greatest chat room and classroom that's out there at Lakers Fast Break have been talking about in regards to Bradley Beal, Zion Williamson, and all the rumors and innuendo. We'll go ahead and talk about that on tomorrow's NBA Observations. But before we head on out of today's class and final exams for the final time in the school session before graduation coming up here later this month, wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts on this. The Lakers, when you look at it as far as most appearances in an NBA final, the Lakers dominate that more than anyone else. I know the Boston Celtics are 17 out of 21, but the Lakers are only 17 out of 32.
22.
It's 32.
No, Boston's been to the finals 22 times.
22, it says 21.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Okay, well, that's
don't argue. Don't argue with me.
Don't argue with the stats. Okay, oh, okay. Then
they've won 17 and they've lost 5.
Then you talk to Sports Pro about that as a reference.
They've lost to the Hawks. They've lost to the Lakers 3 times, and they lost to the Warriors last year. Get your facts straight, G. Come on.
Well, don't tell me. Tell Sports Pro.
You're better than that. You're better than that.
Tell Sports Pro. Say 21.
Sports,
Sports Pro. SportsPro.com. Unfortunately,
I don't know who Sports Bro is. And the Sports Bro needs to get a new profession.
Okay, fair enough. Well, before we head on out, my friend, though, it is the Lakers of their 32 different appearances in the NBA Finals, 17 and 15. Which is the most heartbreaking to you?
Heartbreaking finals loss?
Yes.
Damn. Probably 04.
Really?
Yeah. I thought that was when Fish hit point 4, and then I was in Vegas for game 6 going back and forth, actually, watching the Antonio Tarver, Roy Jones Jr. 2 fight, or the undercards. And then I was able to watch the fight finished, and then I was able to get out in time to watch the Lakers close out San Antonio. Mm-hmm. I thought that was it. I thought the Lakers were going to win the 2004 title. They did struggle against Minnesota, but they won it in 6. And once they went into Detroit, I was like, oh, we're gonna smoke Detroit. And to see them get destroyed in a gentleman's sweep was a real big shock.
I will say though, for me, I think the biggest heartbreak for me in the NBA Finals, I think it was 2008. I think because it renewed the rivalry, in my opinion, of the Lakers and the Celtics. I know it wasn't close as I wanted it to be, as far as the ultimate result, but I thought that the Lakers, just not this new rivalry revived as far as between the Celtics and the Lakers. Just the first shot going to the Celtics sticks to my craw even today.
Yeah, the problem with that series was we were up 20 points deep in the third and we still
Yeah.
lost.
Mm-hmm.
That was at a time when those leads weren't really hard. They weren't hard to keep. They were easy. Lakers tie that series. I'm confident we'll win game 5 and we're going to Boston up 3-2. Going up 3-2 and going to Boston, I believe Kobe Bryant goes into supersonic mode and says, I'm taking this home. And Boston would have been playing with more fear versus going up there 3-2 and knowing that they have another game to close it out. I would say in terms of Kobe's legacy, that loss was worse because he three-peats twice. He beats Boston both times. The Lakers pass the Celtics.
Well, you started hearing again the loud, "Oh, you need Shaq in order to go ahead and take you all the way."
Yeah, and that's usually said by numbskulls who just want to get under your skin. And then Kobe served a back-to-back dish up your ass with back-to-back Finals MVPs. So I mean, it's Kobe Bryant, man. I mean, you're people who leave Kobe Bryant out of the best player ever conversation shouldn't even talk. They should just go away. They have zero credibility in my book. You leave Kobe Bryant out of that discussion, you don't know jack squat about sports or basketball. You should go sit in a corner. And I don't care who you are, and I don't care how much money you make as a sports analyst. You're a clown. You should shut up. You shouldn't talk about basketball. And you know why? And you don't need to ask me. You don't need to talk to me. Go talk to guys like Chauncey Billups, guys that have been there, guys that are Hall of Famers, guys that have won Finals MVPs. Go talk to Durant. Go talk to Kevin Durant. Go talk to Kyrie Irving. Go talk to those guys. Those guys that actually know how to play basketball, know how to do things on that court that no one else does. Why are they always mentioning him? Don't listen to me. I'm just more demonstrative because I think that I know more than anyone that I ever run into about basketball. The history of it, the games. Most of the people that are out there are box score whores. They look at box scores. They look at stats. They don't watch the games. They don't see how the game flows and how it works. They just look at the stats. They look at the box score. They'll watch a couple of clips of Sports Center and they think they know what they saw.
One last thing I want to touch on when concerns the NBA Finals is a team that's often overlooked. We talked about the early history of the Los Angeles Lakers, but you look at it, the titles that they won in the 50s, starting with in 49, the 50s, you talk about the titles that they won in the 2000s, talk about the titles that they won in the 1980s. But a lot of people forget the title that they won in 1972. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on the 1972 team, how dominant they were at times, and obviously how much of the history books are written about that specific team.
Well, the Elgin Baylor started that year and then retired,
Yeah.
I think a month in. And then Gail Goodrich got into the Hall of Fame because of that season. So he was the perfect complement to Jerry West's last good year, Wilt's last good year. You had a team that won 33 straight games and I believe they lost to Milwaukee in game 34 and then went on to win 11 games straight. Imagine if they had beaten Milwaukee in that game, they would have ended up winning 45 in a row.
Yep.
Uh, I'm surprised looking on the schedule that year how they didn't win 70 games, winning 33 games. I'm puzzled by that, especially considering the Bulls' longest winning streak during their 72 win season was 18. So that's kind of puzzling to me. However, they put everything together. They were able to muster what they needed to, and they ended up being the Knicks in 5. The early 70s was a little disappointing, at least from watching doing the research and understanding at the time. The Lakers blew the 69 final against the Celtics, should have won that series. But then the following year was worse in a lot of ways, losing to the Knicks in 7. And then they lost to the Knicks in 5 in 73. They should have won 2 out of those 3 series at the very least, or maybe all 3. I don't think they had. I don't know. They just couldn't close it out at the time. They just couldn't, and it's just disappointing that those were some lost opportunities that could have added to the mantle, to the trophy mantle. 2000 actually. When I think about the streak, the Lakers in 2000 won 19 in a row, 16 in a row, and 11 in a row, and Phil Jackson didn't let the Lakers go after 69 the last 2 games of the year. That's a bummer. It would have been nice to get 69 wins in 2000 and en route to a title. But they went into overtime, I think, against the Spurs, and he just decided to sit all the starters. And then they lost the last game of the year against Dallas, which I was bummed. And even the Sarge got on Phil for kind of laying down. It's kind of like the first time you saw load management before it was called load management.
Yeah.
And it didn't really do the Lakers any good. They still had to go 5 against the Kings. And, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter at this point. It's just a record. But, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to match the 69 wins en route to a title. But I don't know. 72 team, I don't know enough. I didn't fall. Obviously, I wasn't born yet to grab onto what was going on that year. But from everything I've read and everything I heard, that was the perfect season. That was kind of similar to what Denver's season was this year. Everything just clicked. Everything just worked. And I just wish they could have done it at least one more year and sent out Jerry and Wilt into retirement with a back-to-back title.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it flip-flopped for them and their fortunes against the Knicks the next season. So, well, my friend, it's been a great time speaking to you about the NBA Finals. I'm glad that we could get this final exam in on the NBA Finals, seeing how the finals recently ended with the Denver Nuggets winning their own, only 16 more, and they'll go ahead and tie the Lakers and the Celtics, which I don't see happening anytime soon. But tomorrow, I know we're going to be addressing a lot of things going on in the NBA, my friend. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, don't be surprised if the Nuggets are the 2011 Mavericks. I think the Jamal Murray yapping about how more titles are coming.
Well, they always say that at the every
Good
year.
luck. Good luck. You guys are going to likely rest on your laurels. You're not going to be able to retain everyone. I know Stan Kroenke's the owner. He's got more money than God. There's a possibility there, but he's still a businessman.
First time they were over the cap.
Yeah. So, and, hats off to Stan Kroenke. I mean, in the last 18 months, he's won a Super Bowl, a Stanley Cup, and a NBA championship. You can't argue you can't argue that this guy doesn't know how to win championships. So you got to give him credit, especially the Rams. The Rams were probably one of the worst teams to win a title that I can remember in years. Ironically, probably, well, not ironically, because actually the 99 Rams was not a bad team, but it was the most lousy team to win a Super Bowl, at least from my memory. The Avs, geez, they'd been due for a while, and there's a history there. And then Denver just put everything together this year and made it work. I don't see them doing it again next year, just because I think most of the time these guys sit on their accomplishments a little too long. And my hope is if that's the case, the Lakers can improve in the offseason enough to where they can salvage LeBron for an 82 game season long enough to get him fresh for the playoffs so that they can make one last run of the LeBron era and hopefully win. And I would be curious to know if, I don't think he would, but if the Lakers win it next year, could you see LeBron retiring on top?
I could.
But will he pass up $50 million in his final season?
With his son, that's a good chance. That's a good thing.
I don't know if he would. I don't think he would step away from $50 million.
That's it. Yeah.
I think what he would do is I think he'd say, look, let me try to go get 6 and call it a career after that, regardless of what happens.
But we'll talk about that even more over the course of the summer, all the options for LeBron and the rest of the Los Angeles Lakers as we head into a great offseason. Please join us again. If you have any Lakers fans in your life, please go ahead and let us know by going ahead and subscribing today and tell them to go ahead and be a part of the fun right here at the Lakers Fast Break. So for Joe Soro, Professor Joe Soro, it's Gerald Glassford, Dean of all University Studies here at Lakers Fast Break University. We thank you so much for watching, listening. Once again, it is Lakers Fast Break, Lakers History 101. We truly appreciate everyone being a part of class. Everybody here for final exams gets an A, and we'll see you at graduation right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast.